abuse on religion and so on. And fair enough, but people live only a short time. They're conscious maybe 30% of the time, 30 years out of that time, mature consciousness. Before when they're growing up, they don't have mature consciousness. They have a pleasant romantic consciousness. When they're aging, they're deteriorating. So maybe you're good for 30 years, and you're looking at an infinite universe. What are you supposed to do? You know, you need something to hold on to give you a little bit of confidence and feeling of well-being. And I think that's what poetry and literature does. So I'm not against, you know, and I think that is fair. And so this person would say, oh, you should all be atheists. Why should you be atheists? It's a matter of aesthetics. I prefer to look at the world in this manner. It may not be accurate. It isn't accurate, obviously, that the world's only 6,000 years old and so on and so forth. It may be accurate. It may not be accurate. But to my mind, as long as it's an elegant way of looking at the world, it's a more elegant way of looking at the world than an empty way. And it's more creative, and it's more satisfying, and it's more comforting, as long as you realize all of those things, and it gives me the will to go on. It gives me the ability to overcome crises and things. So as long as they're not harmful things that are involved in this, and I'm afraid Islam has illustrated some of the harmful things that could be involved in religious practices, and Buddhism on the other side might be a little bit too quietistic, in the sense of not wanting to do anything about the ills of the world, and thinking that the ills of the world are just there for you to overcome spiritually and get on with your ride into other cycles, higher cycles of being, and so on. I'm not sure all those things are. I'm not criticizing those religions, but I think that those things have to be looked at with some sort of care to make sure. And I think Christianity has to be looked at with some sort of care, as does Judaism. So that's what we're doing. Anyway, let's go back here. So you said I was on Matthew what? Matthew's the easiest one to follow. What's his name? Jesus Barabbas. What passage was it? Matthew 27. What was it?
15 to 26.
15 to 26.
Matthew 27.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did all of that. A certain, Luke has most there, a certain Barabbas who had been involved in insurrection. Well, let's be frank. That's what was going on in Pilate's time, insurrection. Murder, I mean, obviously not. If he's in insurrection, he's not murdering someone. He's involved in confrontation that could end up in deadly circumstances. We don't call that murder. He's not someone who goes around, he might be a cutthroat, he might be a Sicarii, we don't know. But the Sicarii movement, according to Josephus, wasn't founded yet. What was it? When was it founded? In the 50s with the assassination of the high priest Jonathan. I mean, I don't think we have terrorists like are in Baghdad or just killing for the sake of killing in Palestine. That was never the case. Traitors were being approached. People who were thought were being exploitative or playing, taking advantage of relationship to the Roman overlords and so on. Those were people who were marked out for problems, just as it would in any society. You want to date this and pass it around? In any society in a revolutionary situation. So how did this suddenly creep in here? We have Matthew. It's Pilate's wife coming in and recognizes Jesus as a tzaddik. That's like Herod, as I told you in the John the Baptist episode, Antipas, the Tetrarch, not wanting to kill John the Baptist because he was a righteous man. These things are clearly thrown in to do what? Conciliate the writers and the literature to the upper class authorities. This is like what you would do in Russia if you didn't want the NKVD after you. I hate to be cruel about it, but it was my last day and I don't have any time to be kind there. If you think Pilate's wife recognized Jesus as a righteous man, then, you know, I don't even know if Pilate had a wife. I have a suspicion he may have been gay or something like that. Now, there's no indication about Pilate's wife in any other literature, but I'm sure she wasn't out there in Jerusalem with him. No Roman matron would want to be out there in Jerusalem in the middle of this chaos any more than most American wives would be sitting in the middle of Baghdad today. And, you know, this is folk literature for the ears of people in the Roman Empire and the Roman authorities. You say, how could that be? Because the people who wrote this material were aware of the situation they faced, not in Palestine, but overseas abroad in the great Roman Empire, where these insurrections were being suppressed. And that's how I would see that. You're welcome to see it differently. You're free. It's in Mark, I see 7, and it's also in Matthew 15 and so on. Notice the feast is Passover, and Passover is the time where these sorts of insurrections traditionally occurred, as Josephus will tell you, and we have them going on from the 4 BC period all the way up to the 66 AD and the final uprising. So really, you know, you have 70 years of insurrection going on here. And Jesus is whoever he may have been, and how struggle you want to make or put the picture of him here, he is operating in the midst of these things. So you can't be a Sodder in Baghdad with your little following of whatever Sodder says his people are all peaceful and so on and so forth, his private army or private group of followers. You can't be a Sodder in Baghdad, taking over the temple, doing things on the street with the people without the authorities suspecting you're involved in insurrection in a revolutionary situation of this kind. And that's what I think everyone, you know, the picture here is the Jews are horrible, and every Jewish person wants to destroy this poor man who is only preaching peace and so on and so forth. And the Roman governors are really forced by these nasty Jews to do these things that they don't really want to do, and so on and so forth. That's script writing. I hate to use Bill O'Reilly. That's spit. And I mean, you couldn't say. Why didn't people ever say this? If you said this in up to the 17th century, you'd be burned. You'd be literally burned from the 300s to the 1700s. Galileo were just saying that the Earth wasn't the center of the universe, was put under house arrest for the rest of his life, and he just Giordano Bruno was burned, but Galileo just barely escaped the same fate because one of the popes liked him.